I chose my wife over my toxic family. A year later, my mom showed up crying and begging to meet her granddaughter. I never thought I'd be sharing a story like this, but here I am. My name is Matt M., and I've always been proud of my close-knit family. We weren't perfect, but I believed we had a special bond that could weather any storm. That was until my wife, Jenny F., opened my eyes to a harsh reality I had been blind to for far too long. Growing up in a small town in Oregon, my family was known for our free-spirited approach to life. My parents, Don M. and Mary F., were high school sweethearts who married young and had 3 kids in quick succession. They raised us with a hands-off approach, letting us make our own mistakes and learn from them. We were encouraged to express ourselves and form our own opinions, no matter how unconventional. This parenting style led to a strong bond between me, my older sister, Lisa F., and my younger brother, Ethan M. We were each other's best friends, confidants, and partners in crime. I remember countless summer nights spent in our treehouse, planning adventures and dreaming about our futures. Even as we grew older and our interests diverged, that core connection remained. Lisa was always the rebel of the family. She dyed her hair bright colors, got tattoos as soon as she turned 18, and was vocal about her political beliefs. Ethan, on the other hand, was the peacemaker. He had a knack for diffusing tense situations, with his quick wit and easygoing nature. As for me, I was somewhere in the middle bridge between my siblings' contrasting personalities. We remained close even after we all moved out and started our own lives. Lisa became a successful graphic designer in Portland. Ethan pursued his passion for environmental science in Seattle, and I stayed closer to home, working as a high school teacher in our hometown. Despite the distance, we made it a point to gather at our parents' house every Sunday for dinner. These weekly dinners were a tradition that started when Lisa left for college. Mom worried about us drifting apart, so she instituted mandatory family dinners whenever we were all in town. What started as an obligation soon became the highlight of our week. The dinners were filled with laughter, heated debates, and the occasional arm wrestling match, a family tradition to settle minor disputes. I always looked forward to these gatherings, seeing them as a testament to our family's strength and unity. It was at one of these dinners that I first introduced Jenny to my family. Years ago, Jenny and I met at a local coffee shop, where she worked part-time while finishing her nursing degree. I was immediately drawn to her warm smile and quick wit. We bonded over our shared love of 80s movies and terrible puns. After a whirlwind romance, I knew she was the one I wanted to spend my life with. When I first brought Jenny to a family dinner, everything seemed perfect. My family welcomed her with open arms, and she appeared to fit right in. Lisa and Jenny hit it off immediately, bonding over their shared love of art. Ethan regaled her with stories of his latest research projects, and my parents treated her like a daughter they'd always known. We got married a year later in a small ceremony in my parents' backyard. It was a perfect day, filled with love and laughter. I felt like the luckiest man alive, having the woman I loved in a family that adored her, so I thought. About 6 months into our marriage, I started noticing changes in Jenny's behavior. She became less enthusiastic about our family gatherings. At first, I brushed it off as her being tired from her new job at the local hospital, but as time went on, her reluctance to spend time with my family became more apparent. I remember one Sunday when Jenny claimed she had a migraine and couldn't attend dinner. I offered to stay home with her, but she insisted I go. When I returned, I found her curled up on the couch, her eyes red from crying. When I asked what was wrong, she brushed it off, saying she was just feeling emotional due to the pain. These incidents became more frequent. Jenny would make excuses not to attend family events, or when she did come, she'd be quiet and withdrawn. It was a stark contrast to the vibrant, outgoing woman I had fallen in love with. One night, after returning from a particularly heated dinner at my parents' house where the topic of discussion had been the upcoming local elections, Jenny broke down. She told me that my family had been making her feel uncomfortable and unwelcome. She said they would gang up on her during discussions, dismiss her opinions, and make subtle jabs at her background and beliefs. I was shocked. I had never noticed any of this behavior. In my eyes, our discussions were just passionate debates, not personal attacks. I assured Jenny that she must be misinterpreting things, and that my family would never intentionally make her feel bad. This led to our first major argument as a married couple. Jenny accused me of dismissing her feelings and siding with my family over her. She brought up specific incidents like the time Lisa had made a sarcastic comment about Jenny's small-town views, or when my mother had criticized her career choice, suggesting that nursing wasn't ambitious enough. I felt caught in the middle, unable to believe that the family I loved so much could be causing my wife such distress. I tried to rationalize their behavior, explaining that Lisa's sarcasm was just her way of joking, and that my mother probably meant well with her career advice. As months passed, the situation only worsened. Jenny's attendance at family gatherings became sporadic, and when she did come, the tension was palpable. I started noticing small things: a cutting remark from Lisa here, a dismissive wave from my mother there, but I still couldn't bring myself to believe it was as bad as Jenny claimed. Continuing with the narrative, I remember one particularly uncomfortable dinner, where the topic of discussion was immigration policies. Jenny, whose parents had immigrated from Mexico, tried to share her perspective, but before she could even finish speaking, my mother interrupted her, saying, "Oh honey, you're too young to understand the complexities of these issues." The dismissive tone in my mother's voice was unmistakable, and I saw Jenny visibly deflate. Things finally came to a head at last Thanksgiving. We were all gathered at my parents' house, and the conversation turned to the recent presidential election. Jenny, who has always been passionate about social issues, voiced her opinion on a controversial policy. What followed was a barrage of arguments from my family, each becoming more personal and hurtful. Lisa accused Jenny of being naive and uninformed. Ethan, usually the peacemaker, remained silent, avoiding eye contact with everyone. My father tried to change the subject, but my mother doubled down, making a comment about how Jenny's background was clouding her judgment. I watched as my wife's strong and confident woman I fell in love with seemed to shrink before my eyes. She excused herself from the table, and I found her crying in the guest room. It was in that moment that the full weight of what had been happening hit me. I confronted my family, demanding to know why they had been treating Jenny this way. Their responses ranged from denial to justification. Lisa claimed she was just engaging in healthy debate. Ethan mumbled an apology, saying he didn't want to get involved. My father looked uncomfortable but remained silent. It was my mother's response that shocked me the most. She said, "Jenny is too sensitive. She needs to toughen up if she wants to be part of our family." She went on to say that she was just trying to help Jenny improve herself and fit in better with our family dynamic. That night, I left with Jenny, feeling like my world had been turned upside down. The family I had idolized for so long suddenly seemed cruel and exclusionary. I realized that in my blind devotion to them, I had failed to protect and support the woman I vowed to love and cherish. Jenny and I are expecting our first child, a surprise we discovered just a week after the Thanksgiving disaster. She's made it clear that she doesn't want our baby exposed to the toxic environment my family has created. Part of me understands and agrees, but another part mourns the loss of the family I thought I had. I've cut off most of my family members, except for my dad, who seems to be the only one who understands the gravity of the situation. He's been calling regularly, apologizing for not speaking up and offering to mediate, but I'm not sure if that's enough to repair the damage that's been done. I love Jenny, and I want to build a healthy, happy life with her and our child, but I can't help feeling a sense of loss for the family relationships I once cherished. The treehouse where we shared our dreams, the Sunday dinners filled with laughter, the inside jokes that only we understood, all of it seems tainted now. How do I move forward from here? How do I balance being a good husband and father with the lingering attachment I feel towards my family? The thought of my child growing up without knowing their aunts, uncle, and grandparents breaks my heart, but the thought of subjecting Jenny and our baby to the Lisa treatment she's endured is unbearable. I find myself lying awake at night, replaying memories from my childhood, trying to pinpoint when things started to go wrong. Was our family always like this, and I was too blinded by love to see it, or did something change along the way? As Jenny's pregnancy progresses, these questions become more urgent. We need to make decisions about how to move forward, how to create a healthy environment for our child, but every choice feels like it comes with a heavy price. I know I need to be strong for Jenny and our baby, but some days, the weight of this situation feels overwhelming. I miss my family, but I'm also angry at them. I love Jenny and want to protect her, but I feel guilty for not seeing the truth sooner. Any advice on how to navigate this complex situation would be appreciated. How do I protect my wife and future child while also dealing with the loss of the family I thought I had? How do we move forward and create a positive future when the past feels so complicated? Update: it's been months since my original post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone who took the time to respond and offer advice. Your words helped me gain perspective and gave me the strength to take some difficult but necessary steps. After much soul-searching and long conversations with Jenny, I decided to confront my family one last time. I arranged a meeting at a neutral location, local park, where we used to have family picnics when we were kids. I chose this spot, hoping it would remind everyone of happier times and the bond we once shared. Jenny chose not to attend, which I completely understood and supported. The days leading up to the meeting were filled with anxiety. I found myself reminiscing about the good times building sandcastles with Lisa at this very park, teaching Ethan how to ride a bike on these paths, Mom and Dad cheering us on from the sidelines. It made what I had to do even harder. When the day arrived, I got to the park early on Saturday on our favorite bench, one with our initials carved into it from years ago. As I waited, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to fix this. My family arrived together, Mom and Dad in the front, Lisa and Ethan trailing behind. The atmosphere was tense from the start. We exchanged awkward greetings and Saturday down at a nearby picnic table. I took a deep breath and began. I laid out every instance of mistreatment that Jenny had experienced, backed up by specific examples and dates. I talked about the sarcastic comments, the dismissive attitudes, the way they ganged up on her during discussions. I explained how their behavior had not only hurt my wife but also put a strain on our marriage and was now threatening the relationship I would have with my unborn child. As I spoke, I watched their faces carefully. My dad, Jan, looked pained and remorseful. He kept shaking his head as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Lisa's expression was a mix of defiance and shock, while Ethan looked like he wanted to disappear into thin air. Their reactions were mixed. My dad was the first to speak. He admitted that he had noticed some of the behavior, but had failed to speak up, something he deeply regretted. He talked about how he was raised to avoid confrontation, and how that had led him to stay silent, even when he knew things were wrong. The pain in his voice was evident, and for a moment, I saw the father I remembered from my childhood: kind, caring, and always trying to do the right thing. Lisa was defensive at first. She argued that her comments were never meant to be hurtful, that it was just her way of joking around. But as the conversation progressed, and I gave more specific examples, I saw the realization dawn on her face. She began to understand the impact of her words and actions. Ethan's reaction surprised me the most. My usually quiet brother broke down and confessed that he had always felt uncomfortable with how the family treated Jenny, but was too afraid to go against the grain. He talked about feeling caught between loyalty to the family and knowing that what was happening was wrong. It was a side of Ethan I had never seen before, and it made me realize how much this situation had affected him too. The most shocking and disappointing reaction came from my mother, Mary. She remained steadfast in her belief that Jenny was the problem, not the family. She accused me of betraying the family, and claimed that Jenny had brainwashed me against them. Continuing the narrative, her words stung more than anything I had heard that day. My mother insisted that I had betrayed the family, claiming that Jenny had manipulated me into turning against them. She listed moments from my childhood times when she had sacrificed for use as if those justified her behavior toward Jenny. The room fell silent. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air. I felt anger rise within me, not just at her refusal to acknowledge her behavior, but at myself for being blind to it for so long. I stood firm. I love Jenny, I said, my voice steady, and I'm not going to let this family ruin my marriage. If being a part of this family means hurting the person I vowed to protect, then I don't want any part of it. Mary's face twisted with anger. If you choose her over us, she spat, then you're no longer welcome in this family. She stood abruptly and stormed away, leaving the rest of us sitting there in stunned silence. Watching her retreating figure, I felt a strange mixture of pain and relief. I knew this might be the last time I saw her for a long time, but for the first time in months, I could breathe. In the weeks that followed, I had several one-on-one conversations with my dad, Lisa, and Ethan. They began to reflect on their actions and understand how they had hurt Jenny. Lisa even sent Jenny a heartfelt letter, apologizing for her behavior and expressing a genuine desire to make amends. Ethan called regularly, asking about the pregnancy and offering his support. Jenny was cautious but cautiously optimistic about these developments. While she wasn't ready to jump back into family gatherings, she was open to the idea of slowly rebuilding relationships, starting with individual meetings after the baby was born. As for my mother, I haven't heard from her since that day in the park. My dad tells me she's still angry and hurt, but he's hopeful that, with time and the arrival of her grandchild, she might come around. I'm not holding my breath, but I've left the door open for reconciliation on the condition that she acknowledges her behavior and makes genuine changes. Jenny and I have been focusing on preparing for the arrival of our baby. We've attended birthing classes, and last weekend, we painted the nursery a soft yellow. As we worked side by side, I felt a peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. Jenny's smile has returned, and she's back to cracking those terrible puns that never fail to make me laugh. We've been talking more openly about our feelings and hopes for the future. It feels like we're rediscovering each other, falling in love all over again. There are still moments when I feel a pang of sadness thinking about the family gatherings we're missing and the inside jokes I can no longer share. But when I look at Jenny, resting her hand on her growing belly, I know I made the right choice. I'm learning to be the husband, and soon to be father, that Jenny and our child deserve, even if it means redefining what family means to me. It hasn't been easy, but every day, I'm more certain that it's worth it. Update: our daughter, Lily, was born a few months ago, and she's absolutely perfect. Holding her for the first time made all the difficult decisions and painful conversations feel worth it. Becoming a father has given me new clarity and reinforced my commitment to creating a healthy, loving environment for her to grow up in. The arrival of Lily has also brought unexpected developments with my family. My dad, Lisa, and Ethan have been making consistent efforts to mend their relationships with Jenny. They've been attending family counseling sessions regularly and showing genuine remorse for their past behavior. About a month before Lily was born, Jenny felt ready to meet with them individually. These meetings were emotional but productive. My dad was the first to visit. He brought a handmade wooden rocking chair, family heirloom he had refurbished himself. With tears in his eyes, he apologized profusely for his silence in the face of the mistreatment Jenny had endured. Jenny, though guarded, was moved by his sincerity. Lisa's visit was next. She arrived with a sketchbook full of designs for Lily's nursery, a peace offering of sorts. Their conversation was awkward at first, but as Lisa opened up about her insecurities and how they had influenced her behavior, Jenny began to soften. By the end of the visit, they were tentatively planning a day out together after the baby was born. Ethan's meeting surprised me the most. My usually reserved brother showed up with a stack of parenting books and a heartfelt letter. He confessed that he had always admired Jenny's strength and conviction, and admitted that his silence had come from cowardice, not agreement with the family's behavior. They ended up talking for hours about their hopes for Lily's future. When Lily was born, we decided to allow them to visit us in the hospital. It was a tense moment at first, but their joy at meeting Lily helped ease some of the lingering awkwardness. Jenny appreciated their respectful behavior and the effort they were making. Since then, we've been slowly reintegrating them into our lives. We've hosted a few dinners at our house, where the focus has been on rebuilding trust and getting to know each other again. These gatherings have been peaceful and pleasant, a stark contrast to the hostile environment of the past. The most surprising development, however, involves my mother. About a month after Lily was born, she reached out to me. She asked to meet alone at a local coffee shop. I was apprehensive but agreed, hoping for some resolution. When we met, I hardly recognized the woman sitting across from me. Gone was the defensive, domineering mother I had known. In her place was a tearful, remorseful woman who had spent months reflecting on her behavior. She confessed that, after our confrontation in the park, she had spiraled into depression. Therapy helped her see the toxic patterns in her behavior and the damage she had caused to our relationships. She apologized for how she treated Jenny and expressed a deep desire to make amends. I told her that rebuilding our relationship would be a slow process and that Jenny's feelings would be the priority. Mary agreed, saying she was willing to do whatever it took to earn back our trust. We invited Mary to our house with my dad present as a buffer. The meeting was awkward and emotional, but it ended with Mary making a heartfelt apology to Jenny and meeting her granddaughter for the first time. We're taking things day by day. Mary has been attending family counseling and respecting our boundaries. It's a work in progress, but I'm cautiously optimistic. As for Jenny and me, our relationship has grown stronger through all of this. We're learning to communicate better, stand up for each other, and prioritize our little family. Watching Jenny with Lily fills me with joy and reaffirms that I made the right choice. The road ahead is still long, and I know there will be challenges, but for the first time in a long while, I feel hopeful about the future of our expanded family. Looking back, it's incredible to see how far we've come from a family fractured by misunderstanding and toxicity to one that's working toward healing and growth. Thank you to everyone who followed our journey and offered support along the way. Your encouragement has meant more than you know.